Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the weekly show that I've been doing where I'm coming live and presenting ideas to help you become your best self. And today I'm a little off sync because tomorrow is the day I normally would show up. But I wanted to do it today because tomorrow I'm going to be unavailable. So, hey, Sharonda, welcome. This last time you were like on Facebook. This time it looks like you're on Instagram. So, welcome. So, I want to talk about, the key in this, the topic. Let me go back to that. The topic, when I'm saying welcome to this episode of reinventing yourself, that's the topic that I've been talking about and coming live weekly to do that. Hey, Karen, welcome. And so, when it comes to reinventing yourself, it's always about going through experiences to teach you, show you, help you evolve, grow, expand, wherever you are. It could mean that you need to let go of something. It could mean you need to heal something, but it doesn't have to mean that. It can mean that you just need to expand who you are. And to expand who you are means you also go through things that help you evolve and grow. And usually by the time you're evolving and growing, you're not so much restricted in hanging on to like old patterns, old situations. But what I am finding, and there's a question that I got asked about 2 weeks ago now, and it actually prompted today's talk. And I didn't talk about it last week because we actually had the full moon and the solstice that I ended up talking about. But the question I got asked was, why do I keep attracting the same type of person in all my relationships? And so I had a conversation with this person that asked me this question. And so I wanted to share that with you today, like some of the things that came through for me to experience through the conversation I had. And then also in my own experiences of the same thing. And I know a lot of you probably have or were going through potentially that. And what I want to talk about before I go into that is how that relates to reinventing yourself, because a piece of the attraction, actually, we'll just start with that one. A piece of that attraction is because it's a vibrational match to who you are, and that who you are or what you need, or what you need in that ability to see, feel, and heal the parts of you that's creating the situation. And that either means that, again, you're either helping to bring something up that mirrors something you need to heal within yourself, or one of the things I've been going through and had a conversation with a friend today about is it's not as much of the healing work anymore. It's literally more about the evolution and the growth of becoming and stepping into these new ways to do it. So it's about when you go through these experiences now, it's also more about you're just implementing this new version of yourself as you're doing it. Okay. And if that's you, let me know, where you're at in that spectrum, because everybody's on a different spectrum of this. We're in a time where it's not cookie cutter, and it's everybody's holding a place in the whole shift of the collective. So when it comes to, again, breaking free of cycles, and I did talk about this last week a little bit because I mentioned to you I'd been going through some cycles of repeats from 2014 and 2004, and been experiencing some things to help me bring closure to those cycles. And I can tell that that's coming to closure, and I really feel that. And to me, for where I'm at with that, it's not that you don't stop, because you're always evolving, growing, expanding, and you're becoming someone else, but it feels like it's a big closure to a lot of the past that, like, I'm fully letting go of. And it's in some level, that's the demise of ourself and everything we've known. And as we move into more of this feminine energy, and us, especially as divine feminine, becoming and being more feminine, we are learning how to implement some of these new things so that we can, embody them, but also live them out in our daily life. So I'm going to talk to you today, and I kind of brought up the one is the vibrational match, is how to break some of these cycles. And I'm going to kind of I'm going to come back to the vibrational match, because that's where I probably want to spend the time giving you some tips and tools and techniques to work on. But and I kind of mentioned the first one. I'm gonna do the first two kind of quick. The first one is because of unresolved emotional baggage that you've had in prior and past situations. So I'll give you an example how that typically works in that. Um, you probably, like, say, most people with the emotional baggage, most people, has to do with the abandonment wound. And so if you were abandoned or went through abandonment or rejection or were unseen as a child, then most of your patterns that you've programmed that are unconscious are sending out signals and creating scenarios for you to learn how to, you know, and then again, this is unconscious, but to bring it to your awareness so you can see where these programs and patterns are, but to understand that the pattern that you're creating in it is coming from this place of you're recreating a scenario unconsciously through your programming that says, I want to stay in the cycle. Okay. And you don't know that. Obviously, you don't choose that. But in the cycle, it's like, okay, I'm wounded. So you are constantly wounded. So you're constantly creating something to trigger a wound. And instead of fully healing the wound, it's just manifesting to keep bringing the wound up until you fully see, feel, and heal that wound. Okay. And most people that I've worked with, I can tell you a lot of it's inner child wounds. And I've worked with a lot of people that they don't want to feel or see those things. Well, they don't want to see it because technically they don't want to heal it or feel it. I mean, they want to heal it, but they don't want to go through what it takes to. You have to kind of go back through the mud to resurface some things in order to bring up what's templated and in the memory pattern of your soul. Your dad just recently showed back up in your life. Oh, wow, Sharonda. Yeah. See, that happens. I'm glad you mentioned that. And hi, Sabah. Welcome. Um, I'm glad you mentioned that, Sharonda, because that's an example of why the twin flame journey continues also for those of you in the twin flame journey, because it's mirroring what you need to see. So if your dad just recently showed back up in your life, this is what I'm saying. This is the conversation I'm saying, that you'll recreating returns to finish something you haven't healed before. And until you heal that wound, then it will keep triggering. And that's just why you can also, like, the goal is, why do you keep attracting the same person? Because that same person is showing you what it is you need to see. Like, it's the same, it's different people, but they're all showing you what you need to see in yourself. So, and what that usually is, Rhonda, is it goes back to your parents. And I'm going to move this into the second reason why these cycles continue. And if anybody's just joining, know that we're talking about the idea of why you continue to attract people, places, experiences, basically, and partners and people that can trigger these things, and why the cycle continues. Well, because you haven't changed these things is why the cycles continue. And the first one I mentioned is, the emotional baggage. So I'm going to move that one into the second one, which is comfort of being familiar with it. And really what that means is, I'll give you an example. If you have been in a relationship, say that's maybe toxic, and that's just an example because toxic could be kind of like broad. And also, who's to say it's fully toxic? Maybe it's a piece of, we can view it as toxicity because really it's just coming up to bring up what we need to see and heal. So is that truly toxic? I mean, it is if you stay in it and you don't see it and you don't break the cycle and you don't take ownership that you're part of the creation. But on the flip side, that's when it becomes toxic, really. But if you're growing and evolving out of it, is that truly toxic? That's debatable. I think everybody has different opinions on that. But the point I want to make is, if you have been, say, created these partnerships or in relationships where, I'm trying to think of an example. And give me 1 second, because I actually had wrote one down here a minute ago, and I want to see what I put here. Okay. So, all right, here's an example. And this leads into the familial or the parent thing as well. Let's just say you lived with a critical parent. And this is like super simple. Like, say that you had critical parents, and your critical parents created an unconscious program that now you attract partners that are very critical. It's because it's familiar to you in living that environment, living in that situation, living in that, being in that cycle. See, and that's another piece I want to say about these cycles. These cycles are very familiar to us. And people get hung up on like staying in a cycle because it's a familiar pattern. And to get out of a cycle and to get out of a pattern, it creates an unknown. And it creates, when you break that free from that, it's something different. So sometimes we stay stuck in those cycles just because they feel familiar, and just because they keep us in a loop of comfort, that even if it's not comfortable being in the situation, it's a comfort to what we know, to exist in our life, and how we've handled and managed those things. So maybe you've learned how to manage those things of being with somebody critical, but on the flip side of that, you've mastered how to manage it. So you're just still comfortable and evolving in that same scenario or same situation with someone. But it can be uncomfortable to step out of a situation because you are stepping out of something that you're not familiar with into something new. So you're breaking a lot currently. Many people have been falling out of your life. Yeah. And I want to say that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing this. Like, it's showing up in myself. It's showing up, and we've seen this. I've seen this a lot with people, but it's gotten more and more and more, like more people are noticing it on an everyday level than ever before. We might have noticed it before doing the spiritual work, but now it's kind of happening with everyone. And a big thing I think is happening with, because I've a lot of people around me, have been working on new types of relationships, either with the same person or with new people, and actually ending relationships. And that's kind of where it started. A friend of mine ended a relationship a couple weeks ago and reached out to me in order to talk about it and ask me, the question is, why do I keep attracting the same type of person? And obviously, hey, Michelle, love you. I haven't seen you forever. So if you're just joining, we're talking about breaking cycles of why you keep attracting the same type of person. And this is typical of the whole twin flame journey, because the twin flame journey is about a mirrored reflection and is about you attracting who you are, which is the third one I talked about. And I said I'd come back to, is attracting your vibrational match. And just because, like, the thing is, if that's still a cycle, or there's still things coming up for you to see or to heal, that means that you are basically attracting something similar because of something unresolved. And I called it a while ago as number one, being an unresolved emotional baggage. Now I want to go back to link that back, because these all link together. Like, everything I'm telling you links together. So the unresolved baggage could mean that, and I mentioned this a while ago, but I'm going to repeat it because I'm going to get a little bit more clear, and there's more people joining us. But that could be coming from, like I mentioned, either you have something that is a wound connected to your childhood, that's an unresolved pattern that you've had throughout all your relationships. That's like twin flame or no twin flame experience. That happens to everyone now. Like, everyone's going through that. So if you can kind of go back and look at like what you've experienced in your childhood with your parents, that's going to show you an example of some of the things that you need to maybe work on still within your inner child, to allow that inner child to be seen, heard, loved, acknowledged, understood, and accepted. Now, I think a lot of people have been doing that. And so I'm going to bring this up, and I want to hear from you all. Okay. because I'm coming here to talk about this, but I'm not saying I have the end all be all answer, because I also experience this stuff. So I'm open to hearing what other people have to say about this. But if you come to this place where your wounds feel like they're being healed and you feel like you've moved beyond them, then why are you still doing it now? All right. So answer that for me. Michelle, can you answer that for me? Are you able to answer that for me? Chance, you can't be friends with Chance anymore? Oh wow. Okay. Well, I know that's because probably you're breaking the cycle of the patterns you had together with him. Oh, you told Chance you can't be friends anymore. Oh, got it. Okay, well, good for you. That's probably, you needed to probably do that because you were probably still connected to the cycle I'm talking about here, right? And Shawanda, what do you say here? You had a very emotional, immature mother that married a narcissist. Okay, so then, and so you had a very rough childhood, Shawanda. Okay, got it, got it. Oh, you just told him this morning, Michelle. Wow. So see, Michelle, you're talking about you. I know you well enough to know you are in alignment with what I'm saying. Because I've been saying, and I just had a conversation with someone this morning, that all divine feminine are stepping into their feminine. And it's this place of, you know, like opening up the space for that divine masculine to show up in ways that the divine feminine needs to feel supported emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, whatever it is. There's a lot of ways that can come, and everyone's might be different. Well, I just want to say kudos to you, Michelle, on one level, because I know from having worked with you for years, I know that that is a big step for you. You're already healing. You knew I would know. Yeah. So right. Okay. So let me say that really quick. And Sharonda, you may have an answer, so I'm gonna get clear. Okay. So well, let me reframe this, and then I'll ask the question, because I'm listening to you guys. So thank you for sharing with me, and I know I would share it on here, just so everybody on YouTube and Facebook know. I'm reading on Instagram, and I can't show that to you, or I would show you their questions. So I'm trying to relate them so you know what we're talking about. And if you're following on Facebook or YouTube, please chime in, because I knew coming on here that I wanted to make this more of a conversation than just a teaching, because I'm not here to teach you about this. I'm actually here to learn from this. So thank you for sharing, Michelle and Shawanda. So now, Michelle, you say this is already healing, and you knew it would. And you knew I would know. So anyway, the thing I want to say though is I want to back up for what I said a while ago. If you're already healing, right, and you already healed the unresolved wounds and the emotions, and you were working on that for years, you would help me. Yeah. I mean, I would help you. Yeah. So if that went on for years, then, like, Michelle, this is a question for you. Did you continue to attract people that put you in a position that kept you in that cycle until, like, kind of like stepping out of it with Chance is stepping out of the cycle, right? Is that what you're saying to me? I just want to confirm that's accurate. I'm just going to wait for your response. Yes. Okay. So you're saying that ends the cycle by oh, and you ended the same way, Sharonda, with your dad? Was that with your dad? Did you do the same thing? Is it a piece of, like, coming back around for you to step out of the cycle? And let me say this. So this is back to, and Michelle, I talk about collective a lot, and it's collectively happening. You guys are confirming for me what I'm going through, and these people showing up to me is also confirming the idea that we're completing that past I talked about, right? We're completing full cycle, full circle. And that, sometimes that means that you're either growing together going forward, or you're not, right? So your dad was your best friend. And yeah, I know your dad was your best friend. I miss your dad for you too. I really do. I feel you with that. And Michelle, you probably saw where Champ crossed the Rainbow Bridge. So in some ways, I would say losing Champ for me was like you losing your dad, you know? I would say that because you kind of had a relationship with your dad like I have with Champ. But anyway, so in case people are coming in, I just want to like recap. And you guys go ahead and please add more to that. Oh, you're breaking this cycle with your dad by doing this with Chance. That's what you're saying. Is that what I hear you saying right there? All right. So I'm gonna and you answer that and I'm gonna come back. So I just want to make sure everybody that is maybe coming in on other channels here. We're talking about breaking cycles and putting an end to why we keep attracting scenarios, situations, people, partners, triggers, wounds, and how we can break the cycle. I think that's literally, if you got underneath of this, my whole topic was breaking the cycle. For me, I feel like I've done that multiple times, multiple layers, and at different times. I can't tell you how many cycles I already feel like I've broken. And I do know that some of the cycles I broke was by ending certain scenarios or stepping out of certain relationships or moving beyond maybe someone that didn't serve my purpose anymore. But a piece of what I'm saying in this is if you've been healing that, then what is the unconscious program that's recreating things you need to see? For me, it's been a lot of financial stuff that I've been working on. And for me to implement new ways of like not just making money, but also new ways to handling it, new ways to spending it, just a lot of new ways with money. So I think a lot of that also connects to the idea when I said the divine feminine and the divine feminine needing to feel supported in certain ways. And I know for me, one of the things that I never really experienced that in a relationship. But on the flip side, I never actually fully created it in myself either because I, had a business for a long time and most of my whole life. And, it never fully created that sense of security. But yet on the flip side, you just kind of had your faith. Faith is kind of what it's been. But I feel like for me personally, I'm going to a whole new level and everything in my life. And that calls for, if I'm going to go to this whole new level, that calls for being in this different place within myself. So a piece of breaking a cycle in this is, like I'm saying, is not necessarily the unresolved emotion, not necessarily it's comfortable because it's not, but it's more of how can I be fully true to who I am, what my desires are, what my needs are, those kinds of things. And then those kinds of things kind of put you in an energetic state that helps you be in a sense of confident, in a sense of not control. I won't use the word control here, but more in a place of knowing that you also are like have a co-creating ability to be able to manifest. And I don't even like the word manifest because to me, it's not about manifesting anymore. It's an old, outdated word. But I will use it for the simplicity of understanding it that, to be a vibrational match, you're manifesting not what you want, but who you are. So if you are continuing these cycles I'm talking about and you've healed some wounds, what are your actions in your life? What are you allowing? What are your actions? What are you doing that's like either putting you in a place to attract a different scenario, or what are you doing that's allowing you to continue the scenarios based on what your I don't want to use the word thoughts, feelings, so I would say maybe actions or how you're showing up from a place of what you're participating in. Maybe that might be a good word. And I know I'm kind of fumbling through that, but just know the reason being is because I'm also going through these things. And so I'm actually, I always, when I show up and share, I just be honest and transparent and open and talk. And I know that gives other people permission. So I know, though, you're using boundaries now to show your worth. Yeah, and I think the worth is a key phrase in this because that's one of the things I feel like And I'm glad you brought that up, Sharonda, because I feel like I'm worthy of the things I desire now, where I didn't before. That's the difference than being an unresolved emotional baggage or truly being in a place that you feel worthy. And I feel worthy. So if I'm worthy of it, I think the key, and you feel worthy, the key is you have to know your needs. That's a piece of that. You have to know your needs in order for you to stay in alignment with the needs and stay in alignment with what you desire in those needs. And then if you're not, then you're not so much. Oh, thank you, Shawanda. You're worthy too. If you're not, then you're not necessarily, in a place to get what you want if you allow something different. That's a piece of this. Oh, thank you, Michelle. You too. Yeah. And Michelle, I want to go back to what you said last. So is this making sense to you all? I'm not just rambling here. You agree, but it feels like you're tied to the cycle and you're ending with chance. So you're saying that, if I read that properly, because what I asked you was, I said, do you feel like breaking the cycle with chance is breaking the cycle with your dad? And you said you agree, but it feels like you're tied to the cycle you're ending with chance. So you're saying you feel like it, like, oh, okay. So are you saying that totally is? Okay. So chance helped you break the cycle with your father, but now you're tied to the cycle with chance. And this is what I'm saying. Okay. So this is actually this topic. Why do you keep attracting the same thing? And I said a while ago, you're somewhere in that there's something familiar that's running, that ran with your dad, that you broke with your dad, but you're still running with chance. Got it? Does that make sense? Is that what you're saying? And then that's breaking that same cycle again? Hi. Hey, Sharon, how are you? So anyway, I'm going to recap here. It's been really good to chat this out without, knowing all the answers here. So thank you. If you're just joining, the topic I'm talking about for my conversation this week is on Wednesday, not Thursday, because I'm not available tomorrow. But the conversation is, why do you keep attracting the same type of person, partner, people in general, experience, situation? Like, why is the cycle running? And it came from, sparked a couple weeks ago from a friend of mine that asked me a question about her in a relationship. And in that, I thought, I was seeing this coming up with people coming through in front of me, talking about it, things I've been going through. And I thought, this is a good topic. I felt like and then I had that happen again with a friend today, that, again, it happened again today. And so when I sit down here, I was sort of thinking, okay, what am I going to talk about? I'm like, oh, I already planned the topic. And then I didn't think about what the topic was. I picked it up and I'm like, oh, well, no wonder it didn't talk about this till today. But the goal here is how can you break the cycle? So you, like Shawanda and Michelle, you two are participating here. I would love to know what you're doing to break the cycle. Obviously, you see the cycle, you see the pattern. What are you doing to break the cycle? I might want to use it. So, what is your plan to break the cycle? What are you seeing in it that you can do differently? I would love to hear that. But while you're answering them, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up one more time. So, in this changing your dynamic with people, all right, uncovering the reasons why you're attracting these things is 3 main reasons. Number one is unresolved emotions that you haven't resolved that keep triggering what needs to be seen, felt, or heard. Okay. But if you feel like you've done that, and I'm bringing that up because that's what came up with the conversation with my friend, like, I've done that, and it came up with more than one person, and I feel that, like, I've done that. So, and then what's next? Okay, well, then is it an unconscious program or pattern that maybe is, from your childhood and your parents, that is something that is a trait that you've taken on unconsciously that's still setting you up? And I used the example a while ago of um, being, in a place where maybe you had critical parents, and because they were so critical, you still attract critical people because it's very familiar to you to be in a critical scenario, to have that going on in your life. And it's more uncomfortable sometimes to step out of a cycle, even if you see it, than it is to stay in it. And so that would be the second thing I would say, in that. And then the third thing is the vibrational match. You're either attracting it because your energy is attracting who you are. And maybe you are, what I was also saying, if you're just joining, is like, I feel very worthy of the things that I desire. I also know I'm still learning to express those emotions, express those feelings, and most importantly, state what I need. I think that's a big one, being able to say what you need. And Michelle, what I will say, a piece of this, I think, is that based on like your scenario, um, if it's the definition of insanity, if the same thing's happening over and over and over, and you're doing the same things over and over and over, but you expect a different result, you're not going to get it until you choose a different type of choice of how you're going to respond to it, right? And most of the time people react rather than respond. But being able to know that, I think that if I took under all of that for a lot of people, and the reason I'm saying a lot of people is this, because I think people are going through the emotional release. I think they're going through the, family healing. And I think they're understanding that they got to be a vibrational match. But then what in you is at a place of knowing what your own needs are, And if you then have needs that are different than what's happening, and you're not, you know, moving through with your needs, then it is something that will continue until you sort of in your soul, like alignment is what I call it, because it puts you in a place of no longer your intuition pulling you some direction, that your intuition is now being listened to, because you're at the very least um, showing up in a place of requesting, honoring, and honoring your own needs, requesting your own needs. So your pattern is to take scraps, and you're over the scraps. Okay, that's your pattern. So you said that you can't be a friend with Chance anymore because you're tired of the scraps. All right. And Michelle, do you mind if I recap on that? If you don't mind if I recap on that, because I will elaborate on that if you're okay with it. But that part of it's a little personal, so I don't want to do that if that's something you don't mind. Okay, I figured you wouldn't, because I know you, and I know that you've already opened me up to share anything I need to share with anybody about you, and we've already had that conversation. So recap away. Okay, so I'm just going to use you as an example here, and I'm just going to start talking, okay, so people can kind of know your story, and then I'll bring it full circle to this for you. So Michelle never felt fully like acknowledged by her father, and she would always do things to always try to get his attention. And so in that piece of that was, she needed to learn that she needed to see, validate, and acknowledge herself, so that she didn't desire that from somebody outside of her. But on the flip side, she also was very open to seeing herself and doing the work she needed to do. And so she actually learned how, thanks for chiming in, Shawanda. She learned how to speak to her dad and tell her dad what she needed. And in that, he didn't know how to give her what he needed, because he never had it in his own childhood. And in fact, the wounds he had in his own childhood mirrored exactly her needs that she was asking for, that he didn't know how to give her. And kind of recently, Michelle was going through a process of she made her dad her world. and her ability to feel secure, stable on the other end, like financially secure, strong, like all these things that made her feel the sense. Sounds like it should be a book. Yeah, right. It should be a book, Michelle. You're supposed to be writing one. And I do, that's what I'm helping people do a lot of lately. I mean, we worked in that, I think, before a little bit too. But out of that, you know, she learned how to express herself to her father. But she also discovered in this twin flame awakening, a really good best friend was mirroring everything about her and her life that put her in a position of being her father with this other person. And in that, though, he still never was able to give her what she needed because she can only find that within, right? I feel like I'm telling a story time, like like one of those like stories that you would write about in like a little story. Um, and so, with that being said, when you talk about being, you love it, you talk about you're tired of like getting scraps, right? And what that means is you have, and I know you've done this, you've stepped into this part of, you're actually the epitome, Michelle, of what I'm having this conversation about now that I'm talking about this. You've actually healed those unresolved issues, that you had that were triggers. You've actually came into this place through healing with your father to know that you've identified the traits, you've identified the programs, you've brought the unconscious stuff up of what, you were learning from him in all your relationships. And so, doing this with Chance is literally putting an end to that. Like, and when you say the scraps, it's really the same pattern though, meaning like you're not being fully seen, heard, felt. And the other piece of that is you're talking about a friendship, not like you're ready for a romantic partnership, right? And to move on with your life. Because I know you want to have a baby. And I know you're getting to that age. I hear a lot of people talk about, all the time, the clock is ticking. And, I know that like you can't move on with your life if you're stuck in the same cycles. Technically, you can't have both sides. So by you like doing these things is going to make it like get you basically where you want to go because you're technically stepping out of the cycle that is really in you. And what I feel in that where you are with the collective, where I am like all these things, by you stepping out of that whole situation is putting you to the place of being where you need to be to have what you want, what you desire. But what I will ask you is, do you know what you truly desire? And are you ready for that? So anybody else is listening to this, summing this up, you need to know what you desire. You need to know what it is you feel and what it is you need. And I actually wrote this down. Give me a second. I have some personal notes I took a little while ago of my journaling. And I want to tell you what it, at least the gist of what it says. I mean, it say exactly what it says, but I'm going to tell you the gist of what it says. Let's see what I've wrote here. Where did I put it? Oh. Okay. So part of my core pattern that we're talking about, okay, so I feel like we're talking about a core pattern here. So there might be a lot of patterns you've worked on, but there's technically a core pattern under them all. And so one of the core patterns that I've discovered is like truly coming into this place of my own core beliefs, my own core desires, and staying in alignment with what those truly are in every area of my life. All right. And that if, let's see what, okay. So like basically, if you can't fully stay present in those core beliefs that you have, the core desires that you have, then technically there's no way you can be fully fulfilled within yourself. And you can, let me just back up. You can be fully fulfilled in yourself, because I feel fully fulfilled in myself too. But if you have a partnership, to be fully fulfilled, then you need to have like the same core beliefs, core desires, and be moving in alignment with whatever that core of who you are is. And if those don't align, then it comes down to, are you growing, evolving, and expanding together, or are you staying stuck in the cycles of something that's not moving forward together or not? Okay, does that make sense? So yeah, that was just a note. Like, I have these reflections all the time of different things, and I just make random notes of my thoughts a lot of times. So you desire friendship that you can be yourself with at the fullest extent. Yes. And I would say, like, in all areas of your life, to do that. Like a friendship, a partnership, parents, like whatever it is, to be who you truly are and to be in your fullest self is, again, to be operating from those core principles inside of you. But that's, I think, where the missing key is. And thank you for letting me talk this out with y'all, because underneath everything I've said, if you're healed, if you've healed the family, and even if you're working on the vibrational match, if you don't know where those core things are in you, then there's no way. And even if you do, then they have to align with the other person. And if they don't, then like, how is that keeping you stuck from your evolution? And only that's a personal decision and journey, and also depends a lot of factors in that. That doesn't mean that's a one size fits all in what I'm saying in that, but it's also something that I feel like in relationships, as we move into more conscious relationships, I think that those things need to be addressed, because everybody's starting to learn what their core values are, the core of who they are is. And that doesn't, here's the key in that, it doesn't make one person right or wrong. It just makes the idea that we are who we are, and we're supposed to be who we are, and we're supposed to all be different, and we're supposed to, honor, accept, and love people for who they are. And no matter what, even if it's, some, like in this twin flame journey, a lot of people can look at this and be like, oh, they're doing this to me and they're doing that to me. But the key is, well, what is this showing you? And to know that they're not really doing anything to you, they're doing it more for you, and that the experience is a co-creation of what you've created with them to go through an experience, and then grow, evolve, and move forward. And sometimes those dynamics are meant to move forward, and as long as you're growing, evolving together. And if you're not growing and evolving together, then they're not going to move forward, especially if one person is growing and moving and evolving, or moving in a different direction. If you're not moving in the same direction, then that's always going to be a pull on what it is that you are trying to do to stay within and true to yourself, So anyway, thanks for listening. Thank you for being here. And if you're watching this in the future, please let me know, what you're doing to, where maybe you're at in this whole process I'm talking about. Are you still resolving oh yeah, thank you, Michelle. So beautiful. I'm so glad you were here. So, let me know if you're in the process of the healing the emotions. Let me know if you got some of the family things you're still working on. Let me know if you've been working on being a vibrational match. And then I kind of threw this one in here that it's more about just, you staying true to your principles of who you are. And that is how you can break the cycles in all those spaces. It just depends on where you are. And I hope all of you are finding peace in that, because I do got to say this. So, I've been writing a lot about all of this, and I just read the last chapter that I edited, was about finding inner balance and inner peace. And it's through the eyes of Champ, through the heart of Champ, and finish that book. And that chapter is about how to find your pause and peace, PAWS for pause and peace. And I was able to kind of come to this place of, in that chapter just before this was about learning how to basically find the calm in the storm. You know, I know. I can't wait for you to read it too, Michelle. It won't be long. It's in its final stages. Hey, Crazy Line, haven't saw you in a while. You've been tuning in, and you just have you been listening just silently? And hey, Yosemite, wanting to know your inner vibration and identify these values. Yeah, and help you attract a vibrational match. See, that's what's important, because your vibrational match is going to, need to align with some of these principles that are who you are. Otherwise, until you know who those are, and I gotta say something about that. And me and Ray's did a whole series of this, like for almost a year, where we were talking about this, where that sometimes you have to know what you don't want to know before you'll ever know what you want. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't always see what you actually want in something until you see what you don't want. And then when that comes up, that in itself is a whole nother process. Hey, Dawn. Oh, you're welcome. Have you been listening in the background, Dawn? You're in Oregon? Nice. Thank you. You guys have been silent over here until I'm about to sign off, and now everybody. So I've been having this conversation over here on Instagram, and then everybody on Facebook and on YouTube. Looks like you guys are chiming in now. You must have been really silent in the background listening. So I'm glad to hear that it was beneficial, and that that sparked something. Because that's why I show up. And that's again why I show up and be authentic about how I feel or what I see or what's happening in my life, because I know I'm not alone. And that's why I like to show up, and to help other people know they're not alone. And that's what is my fuel to my flame, that keeps me going personally, and then keeps me wanting to show up to share and help others. Because then at the core of all of this, I think that's what we're all here for, is to help support each other. Oh, Michelle, thank you. Yeah, I'm so grateful you showed up. Thank you. Sending you loads of love and energy for everything with that, and sending all of you loads of love and energy. All right. So, oh, thank you. You love the support, Yosemite? Yeah. Thank you so much. So you've been watching my channel? You're I think I've seen your name before. You just went through the awakening of what you don't want. So you missed a few minutes of the lives in the recent weeks. Okay, but in Crazy Line, but you're always try to watch them. Okay, so yeah, try to catch up on this one. That this one was a little bit different than normal, but that's okay, because I came here really open to knowing this wasn't about me, and I felt it was more like I wanted to show up and see what you all thought about what I had to say, because I feel like I could learn from you. Oh, we met in Sedona. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yes. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Like, the thing was, I have my glasses on, and the whole name up there, I didn't put it all together until just now. Yosemite. Yes. So that is so cool, because I do want to say that, she's mentioning here that she came to Sedona and she had a private session in Sedona. So she had reached out to me to do a private session here, which we've been doing. Jeremiah and I have been doing. Love you too. I'm sorry. It's not that I get your name now, but it is a little different. When I saw the whole thing, it didn't register who you were. But anyway, she recently came to Sedona and did a private session out in the Vortex. And so yeah, that's awesome. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And I also want to thank all of you that have showed up from a place of sending me love with Champ, because that has been one of the hardest things of my life, of the healing process. And writing the book has been very healing for me. And I know that as I go forward, a lot of like even just going through that is change. It's change, going through change. And I didn't bring this one up, and I'm not going to open this whole can of worms, but I'm going to plant the seed. What we're talking about here is all of it is change comes. And are you willing to change with the change? Like, that's a mind twister. Are you willing to change with the change? Because change is always going to come. And are you going to move with it, or are you going to move against it? And Shawanda, thank you. You have a great evening too. All right, dear. All right. Yasemin. Yeah, I'm sorry, Karen. Say with my I got a tongue twister here. Yasmin. Sending you loads of love, dear. And thank you so much, Crazy Lion. And sending everyone loads of love. Okay. And I would love to hear for anybody else watching this in the future. I didn't mention this, but I am going to mention this. You know, if you're going through this and you need some clarity, because I've been seeing kind of clients coming back through. I even been getting a lot of messages from people lately saying I need help, that I haven't seen this kind of request in a while, and this type of request. And so if you, and this for clarity is where I'm going with this. So if you're in a place of needing clarity, I have put my my booking page, either a link above or below, or on Instagram, it's in my bio, that I do offer a clarity session. And so I would be happy to meet with you and offer you clarity. And, you know, sometimes I am a reflection for other people, but always know when you show up for people, they're also your reflection. And I always learn from it myself. So thank you guys. I love all of you. Thanks for the conversation. And again, I showed up on Wednesday instead of Thursday because can't do tomorrow, but I do plan to do weekly, and most often it'll be on Thursdays. Okay. I love you guys. Talk later. Take care.